Survival Dispatch, in partnership with Carnival, just dropped a Christmas deal that actually makes you harder to kill. So from now until December 23rd at 11:59 p.m. Pacific time, every $100 that you spend at carnival.com is one virtual raffle ticket that you automatically get entered into a drawing. And on Christmas Eve, we'll pull 5 lucky names, and the winners will get a prize package fit for Santa himself. Each one of the prizes will include 1 beef family pack, as well as 2 beef, 2 chicken, and 2 pork single-serving packs from Carnival. They're also going to throw in a Carnival tee and a Carnival hat so you guys can wear that swag and brag to all of your friends that you were one of the lucky winners. But not to be outdone, Survival Dispatch has brought their A game as well, and we are offering 5 lifetime Guardian membership. You get 6 private encrypted signal channels, Survival Dispatch emergency notification system, and the POC-Link Ultra radio channel if you have those items as a part of your membership. But our current subscribers to the annual subscription are not to be left out in the cold this winter. Every time you spend over $99 at Carnival, you just email your receipt to support@survivaldispatch.com, and we will tack on 30 days to your annual membership. So don't delay and head over to Carnival and start buying that meat with no mRNA injections, no antibiotics, the perfect addition to your preps this winter. So don't delay and get started right now with Survival Dispatch and Carnival. And from each and every one of us, Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
We are back. I'm Chris Evans, the CEO of Survival Dispatch, and tonight we are covering permanent emergency powers, how emergencies become permanent, allowing unchecked government expansion. However, before we do the conflicted question and get into the daily sit rep, I want to give a shout out to 3 of our guardians in particular, Ro, Jason P., and Tim Smith, who are assisting Survival Dispatch News with a major project that we'll be unveiling for Guardians on Christmas Eve. And speaking of which, Guardian memberships, we've got a 24-hour flash sale going on until midnight tomorrow night, 25% off all memberships, whether they be monthly or annual. There are additional Guardians helping Ro, Jason, and Tim. It's a maybe 25, 30 person team. Pretty exciting stuff that we will be sharing with all y'all publicly here before too long. It's a good thing for the community, especially a good thing for all of our Guardians. So with that being said, let's hit the conflicted question of the night. So if you're not familiar with this, conflictedthegame.com. These are 14 card games set in post-apocalyptic scenarios. The majority of these questions have some element of morality to them, hence the name conflicted. So here we go. Morgan's discipline and sacrifice when it came down to investing on preparedness products and services instead of on something else made all the difference between life and death after disaster struck. How much of someone's personal monthly income should be spent on preparedness items? Interesting question. Not a lot of morality to that one in particular. I'll give you my answer at the end of the broadcast. I want to see your answers in the live chat or the comment section down below. So let's get into the Command 11 sit rep and actually just quickly mention Khalid will be back tomorrow night. Actually, we have a packed house tomorrow night. So Khalid will be back. Mike Glover will be with us because it's Wednesday night. Jeff MD will be back. Randy Nance will be back. I will be back. We'll probably split it into 2 halves so nobody's sitting around waiting their turn to speak. And Thursday night, I'll probably be with Jeff and Randy. Friday night, Khalid will be back with us. And then next week, Khalid should be recovered enough to resume Monday to Friday broadcast. All right, boy, howdy. So I'm on a roll here recently with content at the beginning of our podcast that makes my watch go off saying that I have an elevated heart rate, abnormal heart rate, and raising your blood pressure as well. So listen to what this piece of crap from Somalia, who shouldn't even be in our country, let alone our government, married her brother, to get him into the country, lied on her application, and her solution to everything violence related in the country is to crack down on white men. Yep. So 52 seconds of complete and utter bullshit here. Let me, there we go. Got her up.
A lot of conservatives in particular would say that the rise in Islamophobia is a result not of hate, but a fear, a legitimate fear, they say, of quote-unquote jihadist terrorism, whether it's Fort Hood or San Bernardino or the recent truck attack in New York. What do you say to them?
I would say our country should be more fearful of white men across our country, because they are actually causing most of the deaths within this country. And so if fear was...
Complete and utter bullshit, by the way. And even though they've been messing with crime stats and reporting bullshit crime stats, white males are not the problem. If we were the problem, all y'all would know it. The problem is pretty much everybody but white males, but Asians. Well, it's rare for Asians to be a drain on society. But if you go to FBI.gov, even with twisted up results there, and statistics aren't racist, by the way, so save your hate mail and hate comments. You have a demographic that represents approximately 3.5% of our entire population, which is black males between the ages of 18 and 30, commit the vast majority of violent crimes. And most of those violent crimes are against each other in that same demographic. So this bullshit here, I'm telling you, we are headed towards balkanization of America. And the next step after that is not very pretty. It's stuff that none of us want, but they're going to force this to turn into some element of civil war if we're not already in a fifth generation type of civil war. I mean, against my better judgment, I'm going to play the next 20 seconds of this crap.
The driving force of policies to keep America safe, Americans safe inside of this country. We should be profiling, monitoring, and creating policies to fight the radicalization of white men.
All right. So first audience poll of the night. For those of you who are, well, maybe older millennials, but definitely Gen Xers, baby boomers. If this piece of crap reminds you of the great kazoo from the Flintstones, put a 1 in the live chat. If she doesn't remind you of the great kazoo, well, just put a 0 or nothing at all. But if I back this up right there, tell me that is not a really poor representation of the great kazoo. Ugh. Anyway, moving on. So here's an Islamic imam in Virginia. Of all Western nations, America is the last stronghold of Christianity. This is why it's our duty to change that and make America Muslim. Christians and Jews have a superiority complex. We have to cure their illness. Holy crap. I don't know if I can get through a minute and 18 seconds of this bullshit, but here we go.
The reason America is still in the throes of this, and still supporting this. I don't know, like I said, I don't know what degree it is. It is because, however, of Christianity. It is because of Judaism. In Western nations, aside from America, America is the last stronghold for Christianity. In Great Britain, people are becoming irreligious in droves, and ultimately, they're becoming Muslim. They, in America, they still believe in Christianity. And in Christianity, in the Bible explicitly, it says that God promised the land of Canaan to Abraham and his descendants. Jewish people and Christian people believe that God inspired these words. So as long as they believe it, they can never truly be on the side of the Palestinians, right? So our means of helping the Palestinian is doubt. So we can cure the ills of the Jewish people who have a superiority complex. We can cure their ills and then tell them the actual truth, the ultimate truth, as Alice said.
All right. So if those of you, maybe haven't picked up on this yet, there's an effort afoot globally to basically turn the whole world into supporters of Palestinians. And, as soon as I hear Palestinians, at first I think Yasser Arafat, then I think Hamas. And you know what? I don't give a shit. As far as the stuff that goes on in the Middle East, they can all fall off the face of the earth for what I care. I don't care if they're Israeli. I don't care if they're Hamas. I don't care if they're Palestinians. They all need to just go the F away. I don't give a shit. And I don't give a shit about people like this trying to say that I'm a bad person because I'm a Christian and I don't support the Palestinians and Hamas. We got enough problems at home with assholes like this that, yeah, my watch is going freaking berserk right now. JP, thank you for the Randy Nance real American royalty fee there. My wife has already made arrangements to make sure that we get a chunk of change off to Randy soon. Moving on to the next one. I actually wanted to pull this one up last night, but I lost track of it and all of the stuff that I was tracking on Australia. Bondi shooting has everything. Multicultural Islamic migrants, female cops standing down, failed gun control, prime minister caught trying to sneak ISIS brides into the country. I mean, you couldn't ask for a shittier representation of all of those things coming together in one spot, costing 16 people their lives. Shame on all Western governments who have weaponized migration against us. Shame on them. Every last one of them. You all have blood on your hands. And you know what? Karma's a bitch. And it's going to catch up with every last one of you. So moving on to the next one here. This is specific to Australia, but greatly relates to tonight's conversation with regards to the Patriot Act 2.0. And I've touched on the Patriot Act 2.0 in the past, but within no time at all of the horrible attack in Australia, you had politicians in Australia saying, well, you know, we're going to have to enact stiffer legislation to make sure that we can protect Australians. Are you ready for it? From right wingers. So you have a couple ISIS pieces of shit, kill 16 people, and we need to have more controls on white males, right-wing conservatives. The people who spew this crap, they're like robots, right? And they just keep repeating the same crap over and over again. It has absolutely nothing to do with the situation at hand. Let me give you a little glimpse of what I said on Brave TV today with Dr. Jason Dean. Last night, I covered the fact that the police station is 400 meters from where the massacre happened. That's about a quarter mile, 440 yards-ish. 30 caliber hunting rifles, no suppressors. You would hear that auditory report even further than that. And we're supposed to believe for 20 minutes that no law enforcement went in and out of that police station, heard the gunfire, and thought, maybe I should check that out. I mean, I've never been a false flag kind of conspiracy theorist, but it seems like there's a plausible argument to be made that they're letting shit like this happen to say, well, you know, we're going to have to put more restrictive laws in place. I mean, because if it just saves one life, it's worth it, right? And everything in life is the same. Whatever you decide that you want, you then have to decide what you're willing to give up to get it. Myself, I'm not willing to give up my civil liberties to save the Darwin candidates amongst us. Let's listen to what this guy has to say. It's 2 minutes, 24 seconds. I'm going to play the whole thing.
Here's what happens next.
Recall the Parliament and undertake to do exactly that.
The legislation that's been written to deal with this problem, it's being sent out to federal politicians and state politicians across the country right now. Some of them have already had it sitting in their inbox for weeks, maybe months. That legislation was written a long time ago, sitting there waiting for the right event. In 1996, after the Port Arthur massacre, the toughest legislation in the world for firearm ownership was passed through the Howard government. It had bipartisan support and John was considered a hero. Most legal and law-abiding firearms owners will tell you that it was draconian. And Australia was never the same again after that. This Bondi event is absolutely horrific and my heart is broken for my country today. Everyone knows that this is a turning point in Australia's history. For you millennials and Zoomers that have never been through something like this, those of us in Gen X that remember this from 1996 can tell you exactly what happens. Things don't get better for you. Things will get worse for you. There will be crackdowns like you've never seen before. And then it will extend and graduate into right-wing politics and you will all be the enemy. I'm going to give you guys a heads up right now. You all need to tread really carefully because anything you post, anything you say, you will be in the firing line, not literally, but you'll be in the firing line and targeted by federal authorities going forward. This couldn't have happened at a worse time either. This will impact everything. And not only that, but over the Christmas break, while people are distracted, the emergency legislation will be passed.
And I give this undertaking to the Australian people. We will do whatever it takes to force the strongest possible action from governments.
Australia, you don't have a dog in this fight. This is Australia first and only first. There is no other culture. There is no religion. There is nothing that is important to you here other than Australia first. And if anything comes down the barrel that isn't Australia first, you know who's pulling the strings behind that. We all know. You can't hide what comes next. It's written plain as day. We've seen it play out around the world in multiple places. This is what happens. The legislation is already written. And that's the part that scares me the most about all of this. Australia first until I die. Here's what happens.
So let's do a quick audience poll. Let me close the loop on my previous comment with regards to false flags. If you believe that these types of incidents are being allowed to transpire to allow governments to enact things like the Patriot Act 2.0, put a 1 in the live chat. If you don't think so, that's fine. Put a 0. I mean, I am not a false flag kind of guy. If you go back through all of my podcasts, you will not see me ever claiming anything as a false flag. Kind of always sat on the fence with that stuff. But this is far too convenient to say, well, you know, we're going to have to crack down. Once government takes, you know, you give them an inch, they take a mile. They don't give you back any of that as time goes on. So moving on to the next one. The moment that a Sydney detective armed with just his handgun and no body armor eliminated the terrorist on Bondi Beach. So this was the only male cop out of the 4 that were on site before the cavalry came 20 minutes later, not a quarter mile away. Unbelievable. 12 seconds. So this is him right here. You can see the red around him. It's a little bit difficult to see. And this is the father, by the way. So, I mean, hats off to him for making it happen. But, God, this stuff just makes me shake my head. So here's another interesting development, which I can foresee more of this sort of stuff happening. Man accused of stabbing Bellevue officer after making fake 911 call. Prosecutors allege a 38-year-old man made a 911 call to get police to respond to the Bellevue Transit Center on Friday, then stabbed an officer. And, I mean, this is a pretty low-tech attack that I can see more and more happening with all these radicalized people. You got to remember when you look at the size of the numbers, okay? So we had Joe Kent last week telling us they've identified at least 18,000 jihadi, Islamic Army, Al-Qaeda, ISIS terrorist fighters here, okay? If you do the math on 10 to 15 cities being attacked by 10 to 15 sleeper cells with 4 to 12 people in each sleeper cell, you end up with somewhere around 2,000 to 3,000. Okay. What happens after that is nonstop terrorist acts every day, every couple days. It will be a new world order for us here in America. And we will go from being one of the most permissive environments in the world to one of the most restricted. I personally think that you can expect to see more of this type of crime happen, especially in areas that have low head count, which is most of them right now for law enforcement. All right, moving on to the next one here. Islamification. Australian Member of Parliament Bob Cotter has had enough. 49 seconds.
I want their names because we have had a tradition of toleration. These people are not tolerating us. So you don't tolerate us, we want you out of this country, right? Because this country is fed up with your, oh, we must be nice to everybody. Well, I'm not particularly nice to people that cross the border invaded another country and murdered over 1,200 people. Tick the boxes. Do they have democracy? Do they have rule of law? Do they have Christianity or some similar belief system? Do they have egalitarian traditions? Do they have industrial awards? Now, if they don't tick the boxes, they don't come here. If you have anti-Australian sentiments, then get the hell out of my country.
Amen to that. So I'm heavy on audience polls tonight. If you agree with what this gentleman had to say, as far as all Western countries are concerned, put a 1 in the live chat. If, on the other hand, you support open borders and migration being weaponized, put a 0 in the live chat. And then you may want to leave the podcast, because nothing could be further from our purpose and belief. Wow, ones are just rocketing. We're broadcasting to 9 different platforms. I get it all aggregated in one spot. Actually, a good moment to mention this as well. I've got a couple of messages lately from people who've been with us for a long period of time asking why everything's so dark around me. And the reason everything is so dark around me is I'm surrounded by 7 monitors, and one of them over here is 360 degrees worth of security cameras on my property. We've had 4 incidences where people have been here making threats against us now. And the threats are the death threats against me in particular are ramping up. So every time I see something move in one of the cameras, I'm glancing at it to see what's going on. If you happen to hear me say the word avalanche and I get up, that means the shit's getting real. That's my code word for everybody in our family, including the Survival Dispatch family. All right, moving on. If your blood pressure is not up already, this will do it for sure. 23 seconds. Listen closely. This guy's English is not great, but I'll give you, the spoiler right now. You insult my prophet, you get executed. And he does this multiple times. And this person, this is from an account called Islam Invasion. They surround us in the millions. 23 seconds.
Go jump on the treadmill. I'm just having him on my panel so people can see what these people act like. That's all. Go, I don't care. Please. You insult my prophet, and you insult my prophet. You insult my prophet. You're executed. You are executed. You get this when you execute the prophet, and I don't take that. I don't apologize for that. You're disgracing the honor of our prophet. You get.
All right, here we go again. So for all of you in the audience who thinks this piece of shit and everybody else who thinks like him needs to be thrown out of all of our Western countries, no jurisprudence, no nothing, just you're out of here. Put a 1 in the live chat. I'm fully expecting that the live chat tonight is going to be absolutely covered up in 1s. So here's the thing. I typically don't have time to, watch what's going on everywhere, live chat, et cetera. Holy shit. The chat is scrolling by me so fast. I'm trying to get to a comment. Golly, holy crap. That YouTube censored, and I'm going to let it go if I can find it. But there's so much scrolling by me right now that it's absolutely insane. Holy shit. I can't even find. Oh, there we go. Right there. So, Texas Tony 74 called that guy a goat humping POS. He got censored. I just uncensored him. You're now can be seen, and appreciate the tip too. Let me get back to my other screen here so I can attribute it to the right person. Jeff, thank you very much for the $10 tip. I appreciate that very, very much. All right, moving on to the next one. I'm warning you right now, this does not get any better. An Islamic imam in Australia is very angry. And this guy, oh my God, like if somebody ever deserved to just have the thumped out of them, this guy's at the top of the list. An Islamic imam in Australia is very angry and says that the entire world belongs to Muslims and that those who refuse Islam will be punished with fire and experience the rage of Allah. Have you ever seen a cleric of any other religion preach like this? I'll tell you what, I'm going to reverse the next poll. Okay. So after you listen to this shitbag, if you have ever heard any other religion promote this type of hate, put a 1. But if you never have, put a 0. I'm a big 0. I have never heard anybody say anything like that. Man, John Curry just got censored by YouTube. He's not a goat humper. The goat humps him. Approved. There's a couple more that got censored. I just pushed them through. Anyway, so we're switching the numbers up this time around. If you have seen other religious leaders advocate hate and violence like this guy, you're going to put a 1. If you haven't, like myself, you're going to put a 0. 49 seconds. Whew.
Every country, every tree, every grain of sand, every mountain, every river, every ocean, wallahi, every star, every sun, every moon, every single planet, every single angel, the billions and billions and billions of angels, all of them, with the exception of none, Mikael, Jibrail, Israfil, all, the first heaven, the second heaven, the third heaven, the fourth heaven, the fifth heaven, the sixth heaven, the seventh heaven, the ocean above it, the 8 that carry the flag of Allah, the arsh of Allah, all are dead. All are dead.
All right. So again,
every country.
If you have seen other religious leaders speak like this, put a 1. Yeah. And so somebody just got censored by YouTube for using the pile of dog shit emoticon. Seriously. And Fozzie just got censored by YouTube for saying STFU. Approved. JP10's getting in on it here. Says goat humper. He got censored. Approved. And just so you know, every time I approve something like that, YouTube censors our channel more and more. CommieTube. Thank God for places like Substack and X. Anyway, what a piece of freaking crap. Now, here's a little bit of good news. The German government has absolutely screwed their people. Hold on, we got more censorship going on over here. Tell that idiot to go back to his porta-john where he belongs. And YouTube just censored that. Unfreaking believable. Freaking CommieTube, man. Anyway, Germany has been completely screwed over by its government for a very long time. I think it was 2017. You had something like 1,000 rapes happened at a New Year's Eve outdoor event of these jihadi pieces of crap. Things appear to be changing a little bit in Germany, although I don't trust Germany as far as I can throw them. The AfD is a party that called them like Germany first. There was an election not too long ago in Germany. 6 of them died in the week before the election, AfD party members. There's no, statistically speaking, there's no way that happened. So ENG says, goat liquor of butt. He's been censored by YouTube. Approved. And again, every time I approve comments like that, they hammer us worse with the algorithm, but whatever. All right. The police in Germany have had enough of the Hamas supporters in their country. Good job. Now, I want you to notice something here, by the way. There's some pretty decent sized German men that are police officers here. And then there's a handful of small women that literally look like deer caught in the headlights. This is not about misogyny. This is about merit. If we have to lower standards so that somebody can pass it for a DEI purpose, then that's a massive disservice to our countries. You know, years ago, a lot of police forces, by the way, if you were under 6 foot tall, they would not even consider you. And myself, I don't know about the 6 foot rule, but I agree with the principle, because you got to be able to take care of business, and you have to be an asset, not a liability to your partner when you're in law enforcement. 57 seconds. And we're going to ease up on the blood pressure for a second, and then we're going to get right back to raising your blood pressure after this one. So if you look at these cops, they're all pretty decent size. There's a woman right there. I don't know if y'all caught that, but one of the pieces, you can see her face right here above his head. She just got pushed out of the way. Watch, there she is right there. And there's this piece of crap here. And you'll see him. I mean, she's not going to be able to stand in there against grown men. There's always outliers. There's always exceptions to the rule. But again, when you lower standards, this is what you get. And it's what we got in Australia as well. Look at her. She's absolutely shell-shocked. She has no idea what to do. I mean, if it wasn't for the male cops around them, and it was just women of this size, they would be completely screwed. Do you see how the male cops move in front of her? When you're dealing with this type of crowd, you can't have to take care of business and protect your fellow officers because they are of a diminutive size and unable to look after people. See, here's another one, this woman, and she's holding her helmet in her hand, and so are a couple other guys, but just she's a liability. She's not an asset. Look how small she is compared to these guys. I mean, golly, you got to use the right tool for the job, man. So you'll notice all the men here, by the way. There's the female back here. There's a female there. The men instinctively move in front of the women. So anyways, good to see at least the police are standing up to that crap now in Germany. Next one up. Australian Jewish daughter of a man shot and killed at Bondi tells Australian Immigration Minister Tony Burke to his face that he and Anthony Albanese have committed treason by bringing unvetted Islamic extremists into the country for votes. 1 minute, 40 seconds. She's very well spoken, by the way.
Tony Burke, as far as I'm concerned, and Wong and Albanese, they're committing treason upon Australia. They're betraying Australia with the way that they've handled everything. I don't believe anything that he says. I don't think anyone does. And they're bringing unvetted people into the country more and more for votes. And I'm sorry if I'm not being politically correct. I'm just a person. This is not what I do. But I feel very betrayed. I think Australia should feel very betrayed by the Wong Albanese government.
Minister, the problem that you would have just heard, of course, we spoke to Victoria. Her father was shot here on Sunday. The community is seething. Yeah. The Jewish community has been warning the government about an imminent attack of the very nature that we saw. No one wanted it to happen, but they say they are not surprised. And they blame you. She accused you of treason. She accused you and the government of treason, of not looking after the Jewish community and the Australian community as a whole. How do you respond to that? Because they feel as though they have been left out.
Look, if I start with this, that where things are so raw, the last thing I'm going to do is be in an argument with someone who's gone through that with their parent. And I was listening to the interview while I was waiting to come on, so I've heard every word of it. Can I say the government has never flinched on the principle that people have a right to feel safe and to be safe in Australia, and that anti-Semitism is an evil that needs to be stamped out.
All right. So before I say anything more, by the way, we have more people being censored. I'd let the comments go through. So before I say anything more about this, if you think this guy's a lying sack of shit, put a 1 in the live chat. If on the other hand, you believe what he had to say, put a 0 in the live chat. Pretty sure I know how this one's going to pan out. And while y'all are voting on that, this one's in America. Islamic preacher in America is very angry about Christmas and has a message for Christians. Don't you dare say Merry Christmas. By saying Merry Christmas, you acknowledge a satanic holiday Your whole religion is a joke. Mine is not. What is your response? Man, this is 2 minutes and 15 seconds. There's no freaking way I can make it through this guy's bullshit. Another piece of shit that needs to be thrown out of our country. This is going to tear our country apart. It's going to lead us towards civil war. And this cannot be tolerated. It just cannot be tolerated.
Allahu Alam, how many times in your life you've had to say Merry Christmas to someone just to be nice? And you might have thought that this is all right. I don't believe it. The justification one gives is, brother, I don't believe it. And if I don't believe something, then it's all good. That would be nice if you were in some other religion. If it's not endorsed by the divine entity, it is from the works of the shaitan. And therefore, that acknowledgement of yours is problematic. You are indirectly acknowledging a satanic festivity, a satanic holiday, which Allah Azza wa Jal did not legislate. While we establish that you may not return the favor, if we may use this term and say Merry Christmas back to you, you can actually use this as an opportunity to inquire. Instead of saying back, say, that's interesting. Can you tell me more about it? What is, you have the right to learn. Of course he's gonna think, are you a fool? You're gonna tell me you don't know about Christmas? I mean, look, they have Christmas trees everywhere and Santa Claus is about to come down the chimney, which has nothing to do with Christianity, by the way. I mean, they've invented so much into this. It's almost like a big joke and a big gimmick, and people continue to buy into it. It's business at the end of the day. It's a business. All of this stuff is business. Valentine's is a business. Christmas is a business. It became, as a religious deviance, it became pure economy. If the situation does not allow this type of dialogue, because I understand, then sometimes you just have to be slick. Being slick is changing the subject. And trust me, if you master the skill, it would work 80% of the time. And they say, well, I tell you Happy Eid, you can say Happy Merry Christmas to me. Well, you don't have anything that you adhere to. I do. I mean, your whole religion is a joke. Mine is not. I'm thinking about Jannah and Jahannam on a daily basis. When was the last time you thought about Jannah and Jahannam? I mean, you party it in your life from the time you're born until you die. Now you want to tell me that we're the same? We're not the same.
All right. An easy one for y'all. If you think this piece of crap and everybody like him needs to be deported from our country ASAP, put a 1 in the live chat. I've lost count of how many YouTube censors. Yeah, level 4 naughty lister. Somebody says, I bet he's still a virgin. Somebody used the word bunghole in the CommieTube chat. Holy crap, look at the friggin' ones rolling in. I mean, when you see all of this aggregated together from 9, well, I see an aggregated view of 8 platforms. Rumble's on itself over there on another monitor, because Rumble doesn't play nicely with streaming software except for their own. I've like I said, I've totally lost count. I've probably approved at least 25 CommieTube censorship so far. Screw them and the horse they rode in on. All right. If your blood pressure is at an unsafe level, put a 1 in the live chat. If your blood pressure is unchanged after the sit rep, put a 0. Congrats for that. So somebody else says, he's a goat bunghole licker. That got censored. I just approved it. Man, I have a hard time understanding this other one. I'm not even sure what it is, but I'm going to approve it anyway, just because of principle. So yeah, if your blood pressure is up, 1 in the live chat. If your blood pressure remains unchanged because you have control over that shit, good for you. Put a 0. Oh, we got more censorship happening here. Rednecks have been training for such an occasion as this. You can't make this shit up as far as what CommieTube is censoring. Like, golly, this is a pretty low-tech way of doing it, but it's a separate computer, so it would take me a minute to get that off of the other computer and bring it over to show it to you guys. So So let me do it this way, low tech way, just so you can see what I'm getting at. And yes, I'm absolutely going to approve this. Check this out. Alien Fro, come on now. Alien Fro 2526. Rednecks have been training for such an occasion as this. What exactly do you think tripped the CommiTube sensors on that one? I just approved it. I mean, we have 444,000 subscribers on our main YouTube channel. And we used to get 100,000 views every episode of Survival Dispatch News. But we spoke out against Charlie 19. We've covered weather modification. We've covered, that drug that basically cures Charlie 19, just like that. Starts with an I. And because of that, we've been tagged. Once you're tagged by YouTube, yes. So here's your Patty Brown says the word redneck, and she got censored. So that's the winner. Ding, 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 right there. Yep. So, Patty, if you are not a Survival Dispatch Guardian, or if you are a Survival Dispatch Guardian, send an email to support@survivaldispatch.com, Patty, and just make sure it says Patty Brown on it. And I'm going to give you an extension to your membership if you have one, or I'm going to give you a free one. Yep, Manly Thomas, Manly the man. YouTube is scared of rednecks. He just got censored, approved. I mean, it's, holy crap, got another one. Chris Contemplation says, I say the same thing. The rednecks will say parties on. Tool-wise, they are stupid MFers, spelled out fully, for letting them over here in the first place. Amen to that. It's treason. Seditious. It's treason. No other way to look at it. All right. I'll keep an eye on that. Oh my God. It just doesn't end. I would rather be a redneck than a Somalian. Yeah, we got to show that one too. I think that was that Dana Rose's. Unreal. Okay, let's get this show on the road as far as our main topic of the night is concerned. So this series, the Long War series that Khalid and I wrote, is 144 episodes long. And it doesn't matter if you watch all of the episodes, a handful of episodes, or you watch them in different orders. All you need is one piece of context, and that is, what is 9/11 2.0? Everything in this series is either the day of 9/11 2.0 or following after 9/11 2.0. So for those of you who are new to my podcast, 9/11 2.0 is based on extremely credible intel that Khalid and his guys have gathered. As you heard him last night, he has 400 men that work for him on his team. They have infiltrated over 80 of over 120 terrorist camps in Afghanistan. His intel is rock solid. It's not predicated, for example, on fake AI movies or pictures like some people. So with that being said, Khalid's intel shows that 10 to 15 tier 2 cities in America, so these would be cities between 100,000 and 500,000 people, that have one level 1 trauma center, just for you, Dr. Mike, I got it right tonight, are primary targets for 9/11 2.0. 9/11 2.0 means 10 to 15 tier 2 cities attacked simultaneously, 10 to 15 sleeper cells each, 4 to 12 jihadis per sleeper cell, hitting soft targets first. Watch Hotel Mumbai, which is a movie based on Mumbai 2008, which is not the first, but definitely the best known CCTA, so complex coordinated terrorist attack. The way Mumbai went down, you had 10 bad guys land on a beach in a Zodiac style boat, get off with big duffel bags full of weapons. 2 of them went directly to a train station and killed 50 people inside of 2 minutes with full auto AK-47s. The rest of them were hitting other targets. They converged on the Taj Hotel, city of 18 million, brought to its feet basically for 60 hours. Hundreds of people injured and killed. They had a command and control team back in Afghanistan who were monitoring social media, monitoring news, and relaying information to those jihadis so that they could pivot as they were undertaking their attack. The same thing will happen here in America for 9/11 2.0. There will be a very large command and control team monitoring the 10 to 15 cities and directing their sleeper cells. So they start with soft targets like schools. Then they stop and they wait for the authorities to show up. When the authorities show up, they let off VBIEDs and other types of bombs, so vehicle-borne IEDs. The goal being to kill as many first responders as possible. So if you survive the initial attack, instead of letting your brain kick in with what's called normalcy bias, the human brain will try to get back to normalcy as fast as possible. You need to get as far away as fast as you can. Do not approach first responders because chances are pretty good they're not legit, that they are actually the jihadis. We've had a record number of break-ins at National Guard armories the past couple of years. The number one things that they've been stealing are uniforms and Humvees. Then you have a whole bunch of cop cars, a whole bunch of ambulances been stolen over the past couple of years. You have dry cleaners that have been broken into, where police uniforms, paramedic uniforms have been stolen. You can't trust anybody. And again, if you remember only one thing, or you relay only one thing to your circle of family and friends, if you're anywhere near the X, get as far away as fast as you possibly can. Trust nobody, okay? So as these sleeper cells are going from soft target to soft target to soft target in our cities, they will converge on the level 1 trauma center. And the reason... Yeah, so I don't know. We got somebody, this guy's a nut. I don't know if that's referring to me, maybe. He could if he wants. But, hey, pyroplasm, if you're referring to me, have the balls to say so. Paging pyroplasm, if you're referring to me, go ahead and have the balls to say so. Or just another keyboard coward, perhaps. All right, I'm going to leave it just for a second. We'll see what the response is. Anyway, back to 9/11 2.0. You will have all of these sleeper cells converge on the level 1 trauma center, at which time they will siege the building, take multiple hostages. They will be broadcasting videos of Americans being killed, maimed, tortured, beheaded, you name it. FBI has 4 HRT teams, hostage rescue teams, none of which are trained to unsiege a building with thousands of people. Call it 3,000 to 5,000 on average. SWAT teams are not trained for this type of exercise either. The hospitals will be booby-trapped with things like sarin nerve gas canisters, bombs. The jihadis will be wearing their invisible suicide vests, which are plastic and liquid chemicals. And they'll all have dead man switches, by the way. So if they hit the deck, it's going to go off. And it's going to require Delta Team to come in with the support of the Rangers. The Rangers always support Delta Team. So basically the Rangers set up a perimeter around whatever the target is. And then Delta Team goes in and wipes out the bad guys. And they will have to be full hazmat protected, because if sarin nerve gas gets on your skin, you don't have to breathe it in. You got 3 minutes to live. Your DRT dead right there. And it basically nerve gases when the signals are going from your brain through your central nervous system and saying, you know, move your right hand, your left foot's moving. And at the 3-minute mark or less, the brain signals are telling your heart to pump your blood and your lungs to breathe get shut down, because that CNS, the signal, the electrical signal, gets sent elsewhere. So I'm going to go ahead and assume that pyroplasm is just another keyboard coward, for lack of a better term. So he's gone. Anyway, that means that the siege will go on for an extended period of time, or sieges, I should say, will go on for an extended period of time. And all of these episodes, and again, this is episode number 73 out of 144, are based post 9/11 2.0. So now that you have that piece of context, let's get into the meat of tonight's episode. So essentially, it's permanent emergency powers, right? Endless crisis governance. Emergency becomes, a permanent and allowing unchecked government expansion. So, as I mentioned earlier, the attack in Australia already has politicians clamoring for the Australian Patriot Act 2.0, many of whom claim that it's already written. As we showed last night, and I mentioned earlier, police station 400 meters from where the attack was. Why did it take 20 minutes for the real cops, with the exception of that one guy, to show up and put an end to the carnage? Was this a false flag to pave the way for seizing emergency powers? If you didn't catch it, the reason that the three women basically gave up and so, yeah, thanks, Manley. Anyway, they said that they didn't engage the bad guys because they had bolt action hunting rifles and they just had sidearms. Total cop out. And then, of course, the one guy there ends up killing the bad guy. But there's no other excuse for it to have taken that long. So here in America, depending on whose conspiracy theories you want to believe or not, claim that the Patriot Act 2.0 is already written. Now, if you want to see something scary, go to any AI. I have subscriptions to 12 of them, by the way, and I've tried all 12. And say, what's going to be in the Patriot Act 2.0 in America? And be prepared for a very scary set of points to be raised. And when 9/11 2.0 hits, you're going to see the Patriot Act 2.0 fall happen really, really fast. And as we've already seen, even though some stuff in the Patriot Act 1.0 is sunsetted, they've codified it elsewhere in law. I can't help it. I have to read the stuff that CommonTube censoring approved. Anyway, it will essentially destroy our constitutional rights because, unfortunately, most people forget Civics 101, that the Constitution begins with "we the people." The Constitution does not grant you and me rights. The Constitution defines the guidelines that we allow the government to operate within. Hence the reason it starts with "we the people." But people have forgotten that, and they will bow down and take it from bad governments. I mean, look at California. I don't believe for a second that Newsom, for example, was legitimately elected. But even though he's illegitimately installed, much like Joe Biden was, do you see Californians standing up for themselves en masse? No, they just bend over and take it. And as long as that continues, then bad things, bad governance is going to continue on. So there's been a lot of discussion this week in the Guardian channels, and we've got 6 Guardian channels right now. They're all encrypted on Signal. The reason they're on Signal is because we can't be deplatformed there and we can't be censored. And before somebody says Signal has vulnerabilities, no, it doesn't. I'm a programmer, by trade. I've been studying the GitHub, the source code for it, for many years. There are no backdoors. Every time somebody's tried to claim that there was a vulnerability in Signal, it was what's called a phishing attempt, where somebody has been socially engineered and tricked to give up their credentials. Has nothing to do with the vulnerability in the software. So that's why we're over on Signal for those reasons. And one channel, the Guardian's channel, gets 12,000 plus messages per week. Some people mute it or don't follow it. We have other channels for emergency notifications. We have another one for security and intel briefings. We have another one that's read-only news. We have a news team of 12 diehard dedicated people that just gather an immense amount of information for our members. There's all kinds of behind the scenes content, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And there's been a bunch of people this week saying, so now that the attack window is open, when's it going to happen? That's the $1 million question, right? Statistically speaking, I ran 3 separate models as far as trying to predict when 9/11 2.0 would kick off. Number one, it's highly unlikely that it would happen when the kids aren't in school, because that's one of their primary targets. So by the end of this week, every school in the country, kids are out for Christmas break. Then statistically speaking, on a weekly basis, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday are the 3 days typically kicking off. All the models came back at 0930, kind of pretty similar to 9/11 1.0. Reason being, the markets are open, kids are in school, people are in their offices, and traffic is heavy. So we got through today, thank God. Who knows what happens tomorrow or the next day? I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm just saying that if 9/11 2.0 doesn't happen in the next couple of days, it will not happen during Christmas holidays. Now, you might see lone wolf attacks. You can't discount that, but you're not going to see large scale attacks because it would put everybody on edge. Our security posture would change dramatically, and it would make it that much more difficult for them to pull off 9/11 2.0. So you might see things like New Orleans last year, that type of attack. But again, if we get through the next couple of days, it will be pushed into the January, February timeframe as far as the attack window is concerned. So imagine, it's a regular Tuesday, and all of a sudden this chaos erupts across the country with sleeper cells. It'll be a domino type of effect, by the way. All of the models that I ran said it kicks off at 09:30 Eastern time, and not very long thereafter Central, not very long thereafter Mountain, not that very long thereafter Pacific. There's a little bit of a stagger, but not enough stagger for people to actually do anything about it in the other time zones. So just think back to 9/11 1.0 for those of you who are old enough, and you start seeing cities, like I mentioned, Buffalo, Denver's a good example, Portland being attacked, truck bombs going off, mass shootings, drone strikes, including drone strikes on power plants so that they can disable small portions of our grid. They're not going to want to take the entire grid down immediately, or communication networks, because they will want everybody to know what they've done before things go black. All right. So by the end of the day, you have 10 to 15 significant hospitals have been sieged. Cell phone towers will be jammed in the blink of an eye because they will not be able to handle the volume of calls. And you know what? We caught a couple cell phone farms in the New York City area, New Jersey area. That equipment is highly regulated. I come from the telco and high-tech side of the technology industry. You don't just go out and buy all of that equipment that you saw that's capable of making, hundreds of thousands of calls in the blink of an eye. So China had to be behind it. They're the only ones who manufacture it at any type of massive level. So if you take that plus all of us trying to use the cell towers, going to completely barf, completely plugged up. You're going to have all hospitals overwhelmed. Now, keep in mind, a level 1 trauma center, when they take that, where do the people go who are grievously injured? And I was talking with Dr. Jason Dean this morning. I was on a show, Brave TV, every Tuesday. And I said to him, look at Buffalo. How far is Buffalo from Rochester? A couple hour drive in that time frame. And that would be the closest level 1 trauma centers, which means people will have to be triaged. In other words, this person, has a half hour, an hour to live. If we had a level 1 trauma center that hadn't been sieged, we could save them. But there's not enough time to take this victim all the way to Rochester, New York. It's going to be ugly. And you're going to have wounded people pouring in from every direction. You're going to have mass gridlock for traffic. People will be trying to get to the schools to get their kids, trying to get home. There's going to be just an immense number of these crazy videos out there. And I think what you'll see a lot of people actually begging for the government to clamp down, not realizing that once you cross that threshold, there's no going back. And again, if you look at Mumbai 2008, Paris 2015, same thing as the CCTA, that's their blueprint. And it shows you how a single synced up barrage can completely paralyze an entire region. I mean, keep in mind, Mumbai population 18 million. It was ground to a halt. And it's the perfect type of scenario for politicians, power-hungry politicians, and other government officials as well, the bureaucrats, to basically take away every last right that they can from you in the name of security. If it saves just one person, it's worth it. No, it's not, but that's what they're going to say. So that kicks things off. That's the end of the first segment. I'll move us into the second segment, which I titled Echoes from the Past, how 9/11 locked in new rules. So right after the towers crumbled, you'll remember, lawmakers jammed the Patriot Act through in a matter of weeks. They green-lighted bulk wiretaps, huge grabs of information that normally they would have required warrants for. And they did it all in the name of, short-term shields against, more terrorist attacks. And it happened so fast, there was just no time to even haggle over it. It's just they pushed forward and they did it. And then that ballooned into a full-on spy machine, basically sucking in billions and billions of files, captured by people's internet traffic, cell phone networks, landline networks, etc., looking for anybody who fit, behavioral profiles. And we had, drone hunts going on around the world. We had drag nets at home. And when I say drone hunts abroad, that's when we really started to get serious about using drones to ISR drones, intelligence, surveillance, recon at a high level. But then, of course, they became armed as well. And again, a lot of the sunset clauses that were in Patriot Act 1.0, they got very quietly axed. You're welcome to look that up. It's pretty crazy. And why did they get axed? Because it was a cash cow. It was a cash cow for security firms and other companies. So they lobbied for it. They said, don't take away, all of these enhanced protections. So it's essentially, there was a knee-jerk reaction, and the fear just greased the skids for blank check expansions of government, surveillance and actions, no-fly blacklists that, once you're on, you never get off sort of thing. Tons of resources wasted on the craziest things like chasing your 80-year-old parents or grandparents. And it was still a really disgusting piece of legislation. Now, I actually have an article here, and I think this is it. Let me just give me 2 seconds here again. And when I'm producing and hosting by myself, it takes a minute sometimes to find some things. But I've got a really decent article here queued up somewhere. Bear with me here. I'll have it in just a second. All right, here we go. Check this out. Let's get back to the other screen. So I'm going to take a minute here and then go through this properly. So the events of September 11, 2001 set in motion sweeping changes. U.S. intelligence and counterterrorism practices launched 2 major wars and altered Americans' daily routines. This timeline traces 3 pivotal years whose reverberations continue today. So 2001, obviously September 11, 2001, the attacks on the World Trade Center in New York. And I'm not going to read all this because this is a fairly long timeline. 13 days later, Bush visits Ground Zero. September 17th, Bush authorizes CIA detention program. This was essentially the suspension of habeas corpus, by the way, which, if you didn't know, don't quote me on this, I'm pretty sure it's right though, is that if you are within 100 miles of any international border in the United States, you can be detained for longer than 24 to 48 hours, even if no charges are laid against you. September 18th, 2001, anthrax mailings stir panic. Again, on September 18th, Congress authorizes broad military response. Took 17 days. September 20th, a global war on terror that we now refer to as GWAT. October 7th, invasion of Afghanistan begins. It actually began before then with the CIA, and Jeff MD has spoken to that a number of times. October 26th, so not even 2 months later, Patriot Act expands counterterrorism powers. Bush signs the Patriot Act legislation that aims to strengthen the federal government's counterterrorism response. The expansive bill includes provisions to bolster cooperation between law enforcement and intelligence agencies, strengthen banking regulations to combat terrorist financing, create new definitions and penalties for terrorist activity, and dramatically expand domestic surveillance. Critics alleged that the law was too broad and was rushed through. Press reports later reveal a massive collection of Americans' phone records by the NSA based on Patriot Act authorities, which prompted Congress to place new limits on domestic surveillance A lot of that was political theater, by the way. November 19th, a new era for airport security. We don't have airport security, newsflash. We have security theater. So because of the politically correct cancer that has infested our society, we're not allowed to profile, but profiling works. So I've mentioned this before. If you've heard it, apologies, but there has not been a commercial airliner hijacked ever in Israel. And the reason is that they have profiling measures in place. Every single person who pulls onto an airport property is asked 2 questions. What's your name and where are you going? That apparently trips up a lot of people who have bad intentions. When you go inside to check your bag and get your boarding pass, the person who's booking you in is not just, a keyboard person. They're actually trained, and they ask very specific questions to elicit responses from people that would reveal if they have bad intentions, especially if they've profiled somebody who fits the mold. Somebody who looks like Osama bin Laden, here's your clue. That could be a terrorist, right? So in addition to that, you have plainclothes guards in the airports in Israel who are scanning and watching for very specific behavior patterns. And they're profiling like a mofo. Profiling works. We have nothing more than security theater. January 11th, 2002, Guantanamo Bay repurposed for terrorist suspects. January 29th, Bush raises alarm on axis of evil. So that would be Afghanistan and Somalia, and I think it was the Philippines was the other place. Surprising amount of stuff happens in the Philippines. August 2002, the torture memos. The top Bush administration lawyers issued the first in a series of classified memos providing legal justification for a wartime president to authorize enhanced interrogation methods such as waterboarding, stress positions, and extended sleep deprivation. September 12, 2002, so a year later, Bush connects Iraq to terrorism. October 16, 2002, Congress authorizes a war in Iraq. November 8, 2002, Security Council returns inspectors to Iraq. November 25th, 2002, Department of Homeland Security is born. 2003, February 5th, my birthday. Powell's UN address cites faulty intelligence. In other words, he wasn't identifying faulty intelligence. He was giving faulty intelligence. So Secretary of State Colin Powell lays out the administration's most comprehensive case for an invasion of Iraq centered on claims of an active WMD program and Iraqi ties to al-Qaeda. The presentation of the United States come days after Bush asserts that Saddam is seeking nuclear material from Africa, a claim unsupported by U.S. intelligence. Despite Powell's assertions, multiple post-invasion investigations, including by the U.S.-led Iraq Survey Group and the Bipartisan Iraq Intelligence Commission, find no evidence of collusion between Iraq and al-Qaeda, nor of an active Iraqi weapons program. Well, I got to jump in there and say that Mike Sterling is a 30-year master EOD tech, served in the Army for 23 years. When he got out, he bought the oldest privately owned ordnance disposal company in the country, which he still runs to this day. So actually 31 years as a master EOD tech. His team did find weapons of mass destruction. They were all chemical weapons. So they didn't find weapons of mass destruction as far as nukes are concerned, but they absolutely found weapons of mass destruction as far as chemicals were concerned. March 20th, 2003, Operation Iraqi Freedom begins. 2004, 9/11 Commission report spurs reforms. In other words, more power grabs. And that's essentially it. And so a bipartisan national commission created by Congress to investigate 9/11 releases its findings, concluding that the success of the plot was due to multiple intelligence failures, particularly a lack of communication between intelligence agencies and domestic law enforcement. The report also points to weaknesses in immigration and aviation security systems, as well as a general inability across government to grasp the threat of transnational terrorism. It leads to the creation of the National Counterterrorism Center within the Office of the Director of National Intelligence to coordinate the efforts of the CIA, NSA, and other intelligence services. The report finds no Iraqi connection to the attacks, and its conclusion that the government of Saudi Arabia was not involved. Well, there's a whole lot of rabbit holes that we could go down there, but again, we're focused on 9/11 2.0 and what things look like here. So moving into segment number 3, call it the sneaky slide from a short fix to a forever lockdown. So, when a boss of a business, takes a gut punch, it's a human reaction to immediately, retract, defend yourself, and then go on the offense. And that's basically what'll happen after 9/11 2.0. We've already seen some grumblings that based on some stuff that happened in Syria, where Trump initially was like, well, we're going to bomb, wherever. I'm all in favor of turning the Middle East into a parking lot, but we have to be diligent and make sure we're attacking the right places this time around, because we already have a huge number of these people and countries aligned against us, and we just have to be a little bit more surgical than we were before. But anyway, so basically, trying to think of the right way to say this, it'll start with things like curfews, for example. So we have to have a curfew in this city, this state, this county, whatever, because of the terrorist threat. And then it's going to be like, okay, well, the curfew stays in place, but you're allowed to go from home to work and back, and doctor's appointments, and grocery, but that's it. And you're going to see government budgets just absolutely swell for more money making as far as the security apparatus is concerned. And it's basically stacking, control on top of control on top of control on top of control, where you end up back with a Charlie 19 type situation. No, you can't have a barbecue. You can't have a cookout with your neighbors and family. Are you crazy? We're in a state of emergency here, long-term state of emergency. Somebody could raid your barbecue and kill all y'all. That's where it's going. It is going towards the same bullshit that we saw during Charlie 19. And there's no evidence pointing to the contrary. So with that being said, that's the first 3 segments. Just want to give you all a quick reminder. I'm running a 24 hours and change flash sale on Guardian memberships. Go to survivaldispatch.news. Doesn't matter what button you click to join, you automatically get 25% off, and you get that forever. You get access to our 6 signal channels, which I already mentioned, which is a huge volume of intelligence and information. You get a bunch of other stuff as well. You get about $400 worth of survival PDFs that my company authored. If you had those 37 PDFs and nothing else, but you would have everything that you need in a post-apocalyptic scenario to get by. You get early access to content. You get behind the scenes content. We have an AMA channel, by the way, Ask Me Anything, where you can ask all of us that are part of Survival Dispatch questions related to whatever topic you want. Sometimes we have guests in there as well that were guests on the podcast. So there's, looking at the time right now, 28 hours. So it's a 28-hour flash sale from here on to get 25% off. So that being said, let's move into segment number 4. And because I come from high tech, I titled this segment Tech's Double Edge. And you're basically looking at surveillance tools that never log off. Think Palantir. If you're not familiar with Palantir, this is the stuff made of Hollywood nightmares, literally. So you've got Palantir working on AI that sifts through every single piece of information related to all of us. Everything from your online activity to where you live, who you hang out with, what your social media profiles say, who you vote for, you registered Republican, Democrat, what are you buying at the store? All of these things will be aggregated and already started to be aggregated for that matter in Palantir. And then they will do what's called sniffing, packet sniffing. They'll sniff all of that data, and they'll tag people that they feel are, sketchy. And it could be related to old tweets that you made. Who knows? Anything that you did that's against the narrative. I fully anticipate people like us at Survival Dispatch, if and when the globalists steal another election, they're going to come after all of us who've spoken out against this stuff. No question in my mind. So Palantir is the big wild card here. If Palantir is allowed to collect all of this information, and then they compile social credit scores, and then they go CBDC, so, basically digital currencies, right? And then they go to things like 15-minute cities, and that you need a passport to come in or out of your city. And the idea being is that you can walk to anything that you need within 15 minutes. This has got Hunger Games level control written all over it. And they will use the technology to justify everything they do. Well, we had to cordon off this area because AI has identified what we think are some bad actors. And we're going to have to, make the curfew more stringent. We're going to have to freeze people's ability to buy stuff because that person over there, they just bought 5,000 rounds of 9mm. Clearly they're a threat, so we better cut them off. And we should probably pay them a visit as well to find out why they have 5,000 rounds of 9mm, or just procured 5,000 rounds of 9mm. So basically, it's everything you can imagine as far as Big Brother is concerned, but highly digitized, gathering information on you, profiling you, putting you into a bucket, and taking away your rights because, I see that Chris here, you had a speeding ticket 20 years ago. Mm-hmm. Oh, did you see the camera footage of him when he was in Jacksonville? He jaywalked. You think I'm joking? Go look up what happens in China with their social credit score. If you jaywalk, you literally get penalized and your social credit score goes down. Some Chinese people who have done these things that the CCP doesn't want them to do, they have their internet taken away from them, or they have their internet regulated to the point where, you get 30 minutes a day. That's it on the internet, nothing more than that. And of course, everything's walled off, the Great Firewall of China from a digital perspective. So there's a couple things here you really want to pay attention to post 9/11 2.0, and it's going to be the Patriot Act 2.0, and it's going to be Palantir. Those two things are the linchpin to essentially take all of our civil liberties away and have absolute tyranny in virtually every country around the world. It's mind-numbing, but not surprising at the same time. So the final segment number 5, I titled the real cost, freedom slipping away, and ways to fight back. So basically right now, you'll hear multiple people say there are red lights flashing all over the place. Christopher Wray even said that, but General Flynn has said that. He said it to my face, last month at Mar-a-Lago. We had a discussion on this, and you're going to see the Karens come out of the woodwork at all levels, including the government, saying, well, for safety's sake, we have to do this thing. And you're going to see things like, large scale paramilitary operations to raid communities. They're birds of a feather flock together. So it's pretty easy to identify, like communities like ours. We live in a very small town. It's been around a long time, and it's very, very conservative. I don't say Republicans, Democrats, two different sides of the same coin. I've been saying that since the 1990s. But we're very conservative libertarians in this area, lowercase L. So, for example, if we had, the fourth term of Obama, they would be looking at neighborhoods like ours to crank down on. So at the end of the day, all of this is pretty chilling, to be quite honest with you, that people will be running scared. They'll be scared. Oh my God, what happens if my social credit score drops? So-and-so that I work with, their social credit score dropped. Now they're not here anymore because they're not allowed to leave the house and come to work. If you think all of this is make-believe, Number one, look up what they've already penned in Australia. You can find some information on it. Number two, like I said, go to an AI and say, what does Patriot Act 2.0 look like? And it's George Orwell on steroids, pardon me. So at the end of the day, all levels of government will be nibbling away at your civil liberties. Let me give you a great example. There's so much jihadi activity in France now that they have canceled all outdoor Christmas celebrations and New Year's Eve celebrations across the board. That's precisely what the jihadis want. They want to disrupt our way of life. They want to destroy our way of life. Just a sec here. We got more censorship going on. I don't know why Mike Gunner just got censored for saying we are going back to post 9/11 protocols. And that got censored. That makes less than no sense to me, but whatever. So when you do a little bit of research and you find out what these guys have planned, and again, they will always use the same thing. If it saves one life, it's worth it. Well, it's not. It's absolutely not. So, what can we do? We have to push back is what we have to do in every way that we possibly can. I'm hesitant to say push back by going to the polls. Our elections have been rigged since Woodrow Wilson, 1912. We've had 3 legitimate outcomes since then. 1960 for JFK, 2016 for Donald Trump, 2024 for Donald Trump, where we overcame the cheating. But I don't trust any layer. Like I hear people frequently say, oh, well, people in California got what they deserved. No, they didn't. The vast majority of people in California are really decent Americans, real Americans, TM Randy Nance. And let me use an example here. Mamdami's a great example. Anybody who thinks Mamdami won the election in New York City is high on crack. Okay, so they published a whole bunch of bullshit polls like they always do that says, oh, Mamdami's got like a 2, 3, 4 point lead over, Andrew Cuomo. If you take the time to click through for each type of poll like that for the methodology, you'll discover things like, oh, well, we poll 1,000 people, 60+% of them were registered Democrats, 25% were registered Republicans, the balance were independents. And then they sell it to you as, well, this poll says Mamdami's going to win. It's all theater and a setup. He didn't win that election. He was installed. And the people in New York City are good people. We had dinner with a bunch of retired NYPD not too long ago, and they all said the same thing. I asked, I'm not going to name who they are because I don't want to put them in jeopardy, but one of our companies that we work with, I said to him, the CEO, I said, how many people do you personally know who voted for Mamdami? And he said, not one. Absolutely not one. Now, that doesn't mean that there aren't people who actually voted. Sure, there's some people who are stupid enough, but he didn't win anything. The whole thing's rigged. So, the go-to for people is to say, well, you got to make sure you make your voice count when you go to the polls. That's not necessarily true. I have a friend, I've mentioned him before, who has this massive data set and he's worked for a ton of high-level campaigns like Andrew Bailey's, et cetera, et cetera. And at the end of the day, my friend Jason is the one who came up with the strategy last year for people like us. There were 3,400 podcasters saying the same thing. When you go to the elections on November the 5th, or when you go to the polls November 5th, make sure you take one person with you who doesn't normally vote and make this election too big to rig. We did that, and that's how we got a legitimate outcome, even though there was still tons of cheating. Here's a number for you, might surprise you. 10 million hunters in America don't vote at any level. If those 10 million hunters voted the right way, they would swing an election. Doesn't matter what way. If they voted one way or the other, they would swing the election. It's a huge block that doesn't vote. So midterms coming up, you're going to hear the same thing again. I know y'all get sick of hearing me say this in 2024, but when the midterms come and you go to the polls, take somebody with you who doesn't normally vote. Why did my friend Jason come up with this? Because when people like me say to people like you, and here I am, say, wearing a Make America Pray Again hat, and I say, hey, make sure y'all get to the polls and vote. You guys are already going to the polls. It doesn't move the needle at all. In order to move the needle, you have to take the people in your circle, who don't normally vote to affect any type of change. And it was a great strategy, and kudos to my friend Jason for coming up with it. But let me just show you a couple quick things before we wrap this up. So I'm going to put this article in the live chat so y'all can read afterwards. But Palantir's all-seeing eye, domestic surveillance and the price of security. What begins as insight ends in oversight. Palantir's power grows, but who watches the watchers in this age of digital surveillance? This is a really well-written article. I'm going to drop it in the live chat right now. Maybe if you're, watching on your laptop or desktop computer, open it in a new browser tab. Same thing, I suppose, if you're on mobile as well. It's pretty revealing. There's no shortage of information. Here's another one. Palantir breaks new ground in algorithmic surveillance and control. I mean, this, in my mind, this is actually kind of the combination of Skynet and 1984 together. So I'm going to put this one in the live chat for y'all as well, for those of you who want to read up just a little bit more on it. And that's essentially the end of segment 5. So quick reminder that ISIS and Al-Qaeda, these are deadly terror threats that we're facing. We've got all kinds of intelligence analysts warning of complex coordinated terrorist attacks here on America. We already know that there are, hundreds of thousands of terrorists in our country, and 9/11 2.0 is not going to be one and done. The attacks will continue on afterwards. And yeah, so what the heck, CommieTube? So Dave Awesome says, hope you're ready for the second Great Depression. This time we're not even farmers. Look at Trump withholding food stamps. He's the opposite of Christian. I don't agree with that, but whatever. I'm not in favor of censorship. I don't agree with the person's comment, but I'll let it roll. So anyway, there's a bunch of things that you can do right now. We talk about this at length. I'm not an Intel expert. I've never claimed that I'm an Intel expert. Well, what I'm really good at is surrounding myself with really intelligent people and letting them do their thing. My wheelhouse is high-tech communications, consumer firearms, those sort of things are where my skills lie. But I brought people in like Khalid and Jeff MD and others so that they could speak to the intelligence side with more authority than myself. And if y'all know of anybody else out there who combines survival, prepping, and intel subject matter experts like SD, I would love if you could turn me on to them. I haven't been able to find anybody like that, and it would be good to see others, combining those sets of skills. So why does that matter as far as you and Survival Dispatch is concerned? I test an ungodly amount of products. I mean, ungodly, hundreds of thousands of dollars of devices that are sent to me for free or that I go and buy myself. Right now, Dr. Mike and I are doing a really big thing on comms. Our next comms video is going to be extremely comprehensive with some insight for y'all that have Walking Dead level comms communications. But all of that testing that we do saves you guys the time, the money, the effort to find the things that work. We did a massive deep dive on water filters a few years ago, and it pissed me off because we sent away all these tests. It's like $450, $500 for a really high quality test, and virtually every water product we tested failed. Those real, I'm not in the business or another business. The big fancy stainless steel things that sit on your counter for filtering water, $30 Britas performed better than $1,000, $1,500 units did, for starters. Number two, here's something to make a note of this: ewg.org/tapwater. They have the largest database of contaminants by zip code in your water supply. You will find massive amounts of carcinogenic, highly carcinogenic PFAS forever chemicals. The only ways that you're getting that out of your water is reverse osmosis and or distillation. No other filter out there is going to do a dang thing when it comes to those. And we were turned on them because our dogs were getting cancer, and we were spending massive amounts of money and scratching our heads going, why on earth are our dogs all getting cancer? So the Survival Dispatch value proposition for y'all is to say, hey, if you're looking for portable water filters, you can't beat Sawyer Products and Grail, Grayl. If you're looking for something for your home, You want to get something that does RO, reverse osmosis, full stop, no ifs, ands, or buts. If you are in the Southeast like us and you're subject to hurricanes, or the Northeast, winter storms, ice storms, tornadoes in the Midwest, wildfires, and you need food, water, and shelter, yeah, shameless plug for my friends at Carnivault, carnivault.com. Use the code EATMEAT to get 10% off. I do not get affiliate money from these guys. I don't like affiliate money because then I've got a dog in the hunt. These guys are very generous and help me defer some very significant expenses. I spent $4,700 a month, for crying out loud, on software subscriptions. And I work 16 to 20 hours a day, 7 days a week, because our mission is to dispatch information to you so that our fellow Americans and friends of America can survive in these very dangerous times. So it's bad enough, by the way, that I've become a Carnivault junkie. So is Randy Nance, amongst others on our team. But now they've turned my dogs into Carnivault junkies as well. So this is human grade stuff, by the way. But there's what it looks like. So these are tiny little pieces of freeze-dried raw meat, chicken and beef in here. My dogs go absolutely berserk over this. They'll be here any second now because they can smell it, I guarantee you. But if you go to carnivault.com and you spend over $99 at any point in time, forward your email receipt to support@survivaldispatch.com. And if you're an annual subscriber, I'll tack on 30 days every time you do that. Between now and December 23rd, every $100 you spend is going to get you a raffle ticket. And on December 24th, 5 people are going to be chosen. So 5 first place winners. And you'll get a bunch of Carnivault product. You're going to get Carnivault swag. And I'm going to give you a lifetime Survival Dispatch News Guardians membership as well. And then now I have another new vice. I've always been, into jerky and stuff like that. But this is from our friends at Wasatch Wagyu. Let me get the right one up. So this one here, this dill pickle's like off the friggin' chain. But these flat strips are so supple, made out of Wagyu beef. Let me grab the link for y'all, just because the spelling might be a little bit off for some people, but it's wasatchwagyu.com, pardon me. And I don't get affiliate income from them either, but you can use a code SD15 to get 15% off from those guys. And I just put it in the live chat. Let me add it over to Rumble as well. Bear with me here so everybody can get the discount. Just like Carnivault, they don't give me affiliate income either. I hate affiliate income because, like I say, then I have a dog in the hunt. Best jerky I've ever had in my life. If you're talking 72-hour bags, for example, a combination of Carnivault and this will give you more energy, bang for the buck, whole food with not laden with a bunch of crappy chemicals than just about anything out there. So thank you very much to the guys at Carnivault and Wasatch Wagyu. We really, really appreciate it. And again, awesome draw coming up on December 24th. So they'll automatically get you entered, by the way, when you buy at Carnivault. Like I said, if you were to spend $200, you get 2 virtual tickets. And looking forward to seeing the results of that pan out and happen. So with that being said, let's pivot into the hero of the day. And I can honestly say we've never done this before. The hero of the day is actually the same hero that we chose yesterday. This video is unrelated there. So this guy who disarmed the bad guy, let's see if I can find his picture here. Maybe it's not on this article. It doesn't matter. The guy who disarmed the bad guy and then tried to shoot him, but the gun was out of bullets, was shot twice by the cops because they mistakenly shot him, thinking he was the bad guy because he picked up the gun, sort of thing. So initially I thought to myself, man, he's like a half a hero because he didn't kill the jihadi when he had control of the gun. But then we found out the gun was out of ammo. And if you zoom and watch it really slow, you can see him trying to activate the trigger. And now we find out that not only did he disarm the bad guy, who just went and grabbed another gun, by the way, and kept shooting, was also shot by the cops. So hats off to that guy. I mean, that's an absolute true hero right there. This one's heartbreaking. So Boris and Sophia Gurman, these are co-heroes of the day, by the way. Carnival, oh, son of a gun. You know what? See, this is what happens when I end up by myself with no supervision. I'm supposed to go 3, 2, 1. For the Carnival hero of the day. So apologies for blowing past that. So we got the guy who took the gun away is the one hero, and these two are heroes as well. So Boris and Sophia Gurman, 69, 61, have been identified as the couple who heroically tried to stop the terrorist as he exited his car before the Hanukkah massacre in Bondi Beach. The couple attempted to prevent him from opening fire. After several minutes of struggle, the gunman overpowered them, regained his weapon, and shot Boris and Sophia. Boris and Sophia's selfless act of courage will never be forgotten. May their memories forever be a blessing. So, man, there's heroes everywhere that don't even know they're heroes. And instead of going into condition black, these two people tried to save others. And you know what? Hats off to them. That's absolutely incredible. So the last one that we have here, this is the audience submitted story of the day, and multiple people submitted this story. So everybody who submitted it, who's a guardian, thank you very much. I didn't make a note of all of you guys, but I know there was at least 5 or 6 of you. Former sniper gives advice on surviving mass shootings. This video could save lives since leftists have allowed millions of terrorists into Western countries. It's 1 minute and 59 seconds long. I'm going to play the whole thing. Pay attention to this. It could save your life.
The first mistake people make during a mass shooting event is they run directly away from the shooter. Watch this video. If you run directly away or towards the shooter, you make for an easy target. As you can see, the silhouette of this person does not move when he's running away or towards. This is an easy shot. Now, contrast it to this video. Now that person is running perpendicular. Look how hard it would be to tag this person doing a full sprint perpendicular to a shooter. Even me, as a trained sniper, this shot would be incredibly, incredibly hard to make. The second mistake people make during a mass shooting event is before the shooting even happens, they do not make a plan with their family. You and your family need to know where the exits are and where the hard cover is. Literally tell your family, hey, if shit goes down, there's the exit and there's some hard cover. Exits are obvious, right? But hard cover qualifies things like concrete, like a concrete pillar, the front of a car where the engine is, not the back of a car. And the most underrated one, and my favorite, is dips and elevation changes in the earth. It only takes a 12-inch elevation change to save your life. Basically, hard cover is anything that a bullet cannot penetrate. You veterans and LEOs that follow me, leave a comment if I missed any. And finally, the third mistake that people make during a mass shooting is they do not take loud noises seriously. They usually wait for somebody else to act. I'll show you. Yesterday, I was doing my angel tree shopping, and this is a video of me walking to the exit during a fire alarm. I want you to notice that everybody else is either standing around or they're walking away from the exit. That's what'll get you smoked. Don't worry about looking stupid, all right? We live in fucked up times. PTSD is good for one thing and one thing only. Survival, baby. Stay safe.
So good advice from that guy. Appreciate all y'all who sent that in. So let's knock out the conflicted question of the day. So Morgan's discipline and sacrifice when it came down to investing on preparedness products and services instead of on something else made all the difference between life and death after disaster struck. How much of someone's personal monthly income should be spent on preparedness items? Well, I mean, I love the conflicted card games and stuff, but that's a bullshit question because everybody's not in the exact same boat. So for the people who are tight on budget, if you can afford to pick up an extra case of water each time you go to the grocery, you know, spend $5 or something like that, do that to help get water looked after. If you're in a financial position that you can afford to stack up things like carnivalt.com, again, eat meat, 10% off, except for subscriptions already discounted. This stuff doesn't require refrigeration. So this bag, by the way, for those of you not familiar with it, it was 6 ounces of sirloin. And when you reconstitute it, the USDA made them put this thing on the label that says takes an hour to 2 reconstitute. It takes 5 to 10 minutes to reconstitute. Put a little bit of salt in the water or a bouillon cube, and it sucks it up just like that. But you don't need refrigeration for this, and it's got a 25-year shelf life. And this is premium American meat. Everything's American. The bag's American. O2 absorber's American. no mRNA, no antibiotics, no histamines, not just grass-fed, but grass-finished as well. It's an incredible product, especially for preppers. But if you can't afford stuff like that, then you got to get stuff that will at least fill you up. Because I was on a podcast about 3 years ago. I want to say it was Nutrient Survival. And they asked me, what's your advice for people when it comes to prepping food? Should they spend money on that, or should they spend money on ammo? Because we were still in the midst of that ammo shortage. And I said, well, you got to spend money on both, because you can't fight if you're hungry. And that's all there is to it. So if you can't, spam. Somebody just said spam. Who was that? Let me put this up. Fucking great suggestion here. Believe it or not, spam is actually quite healthy for you. It's meat and fats, and it's good fats. And if you do the research on it, that is absolutely a great product to buy. Well done, A. Lyron. Anyway, you want to get stuff that's going to fill you up so you're not hungry. Rice, beans. Normally, I don't eat that kind of stuff. I like to eat, high protein. My wife's 100% carnivore, and I'm about 90% carnivore. But at the end of the day, there is no magic percentage or number. Whatever you can afford. And here's the thing. With inflation, whether it's high or low, whatever you spend on food, and when you finally do eat it, you're going to get a great return on investment, probably better than if you had to put your money into anything else out there. So long shelf life food is the key. Lots of water. Get a water bob off of Amazon. They're like $34. It's 100 gallons. So if you think the shit's fixing to hit the fan, you put it in your bathtub, you fill it up, it holds 100 gallons of water. It's got a hand pumper on it. Even if you don't drink that water, you can use it to flush your commode, amongst other things. So for $34, it's not exactly going to break the piggy bank. I know some people are struggling these days, but it's like eating an elephant, one bite at a time. So first and foremost, you got to worry about the basics: food, water, shelter. The next thing that you need to worry about, I would say, is a whole bunch of things kind of on the same plane. You're looking at being able to defend yourself. So having firearms and getting training with those firearms, just bullshit numbers. If you had $2,000 to spend and you could buy 2 guns at $1,000 a piece, I would say don't do that. Spend $1,000 on the gun, spend the other $1,000 on training, optics, that sort of stuff, so that you get a better bang for the buck that way. But comms is the big one. So somebody made a keyboard coward comment last week and said that I talk about comms too much. It's in my wheelhouse, number one. Number two, every single audience poll that we've run, like when we email them out in the past 3 years, has shown that comms is the number one concern for our audience. It's a complex set of things as far as, how do you spend your money to get the best bang for comms? Okay, well, you can get Garmin InReach Minis or InReach Messengers on special for somewhere between $200 and $250. You don't have to have the monthly subscription running. You can turn on at any particular point in time. You tether your phone to it, and your messages go up to the Iridium satellites, back down to a NOC, Network Operations Center, out to whoever you're communicating with. I've used them for off-grid comms, pretty reasonably priced. Starlink, you can do the same thing, obviously. I'm a big fan of Starlink for backups. But what about close people by you? Like if somebody put a link to a radio in one of the chats a couple days ago, and I pulled it up and I chuckled. I didn't say anything, but it said, it had whatever, 15, 20 kilometer range. So multiply that by 0.6. What's that? Call it 10 to 12 miles or something like that. You are not going to get handsets that do that, HTs they're called, unless you have perfectly optimum conditions like the salt flats, because they're all UHF, VHF. They're all blocked by buildings and foliage. So if you get a mile and a half out of a handset in an urban environment, that's pretty good. So there's all kinds of other solutions. I'll leave that for the next comms video that Dr. Mike and I are fixing to publish, but we will have a complete list of comms things that you can look at as far as what your budget supports and how many layers of redundancy that you want or need. So tomorrow evening, like I said, full house, 7 p.m. Eastern. Jeff MD, Randy Nance, Mike Glover, Khalid, all of us will be back tomorrow night. And the next episode in our Long War series is CBDCs and financial control. So programmable money and how CBDCs, give unprecedented power to monitor every single thing that you purchase and restrict your spending. So this conversation on Palantir tonight dovetails into that perfectly. It's basically control over every transaction you make. You don't want to miss this one. But other than that, keep in mind that the Guardian membership drive goes till midnight tomorrow night, 25% off of any membership. Just go to survivaldispatch.news, click on any button to sign up. You'll get the discount automatically applied. My wife and I went and saw John Party at the St. Augustine Amphitheater on Saturday night. I shot a few videos. It's going to get this video smoked for copyright on YouTube, CommuTube. I don't really give a shit, to be honest with you. So enjoy the closing video of some Christmas music from John Party. And between now and tomorrow night, do me a favor, please like, share, comment, subscribe. God bless America. Enjoy the closing video.